Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to a Conscious Lover series designed to supporting you to becoming the powerful and confident lover that the feminine desire. My name is Miko Lau, and I am a men's intimacy coach devoted to guiding men back to their hearts, to connect to their masculine core, and to create connections of true intimacy. And joining me today, we have the one and only Ryan Yokome, and he is one of the most internationally recognized expert in the field of personal transformation. And he actually, Ryan, is someone that is so special to me because he's been a mentor of mine, someone that I have really learned a lot about the masculine and feminine dynamics in relationship, in business. And I'm so honored that he's joining us today. And Ryan, happy to see you.
Hey, Miko, grateful to be here.
Awesome. So Ryan, share with us a little bit more about you, your background, your story. Like, how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've obviously worked together and, I've watched you come into the scene and just blow it up, and you always have great energy. So I'm very honored and thankful to be here with you. Yeah, I'm always excited to see what we'll create when we collaborate together. So who knows where this conversation will go. But yeah, so I'm a spiritual life and business coach. I've been coaching for 7 years. Had a background prior to that to network marketing. We had some really good success there, built up multiple six-figure business. Then we transitioned into coaching, my wife and I, and we built up a business really specializing in helping people live their purpose and then getting out of their own way through harmonizing their masculine drive and their feminine flow. So we've worked with many, many clients, done a lot of retreats over the past several years of helping people with this specific topic. So I know the work is very transformative, not just for our clients, but for, like, you've watched Chris and I grow too, my wife and I, in our own personal lives too. So yeah, it's a great topic.
Yeah, I just like this specific conversation today. It's just so special to me because it brings back so much memories. Like, I remember when I first found you and got connected with you and had you on my previous summit series. I was so much in my masculine drive. Like, what drawn me to you was because you talked about like spiritual ways of generating wealth, and like all of that was my focus at that time, making money, becoming successful. So I feel like because I've worked on my own inner masculine, feminine like dynamics, now I can really hold space for other men to do the same work. But why don't you share a little bit more about like what does that mean? Let's say someone that's totally new to this work and they're coming in, they're feeling resonating with this topic, but they don't really understand what masculine, feminine dynamic is.
Yeah, most people don't. It's interesting. They've never heard of it or they don't understand it. So I'll just share my perspective on it, which everyone has their individual takes on it. So roughly around, like, in working with people, I've found the vast majority of men I've worked with are masculine, and the vast majority of women I've worked with have a core essence of feminine. Now, I think it's important to remember we have both masculine and feminine within us. And how those energies play internally within ourselves, often we'll see them reflect with how our relationships are, especially our intimate relationship. So to me, the masculine from a spiritual standpoint is consciousness. So if I do like a really deep meditation and you feel that peaceful, calm, nothing happening, that's masculine. Masculine is anything to do with your purpose. Making money is masculine. Anything that's directional, like the person who drives the car is in their masculine. Passenger is always in their feminine. So that's kind of like a masculine driving energy. But the feminine is, to me, more like life. So as an example, I was upstairs, my office, we live like up on the mountains, so it's like really quiet. And my office is in a loft above our garage, and it's really peaceful and it's calm. And then all of a sudden I hear my daughter screaming, and then my wife screaming. And, that's like the feminine. It's like noise, sound disrupting the peace. So the feminine's life, its flow, anything that has to do with a lot of pleasure and fun and life itself is feminine. So, I look at the masculine basically as the driving force, and kind of like you could say the feminine job is to keep the party going, and the masculine's job is to make it better. So,
I like that analogy. So, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is like there's obviously the masculine, the feminine dynamics within each person, but also within the context, let's say a relationship, within like a business. So what does it look like when, let's say, a relationship that's out of that harmony with these two energies? What are some of the symptoms you would say?
yeah. Well, there's various scales to it. So I don't know. Have you ever been like in a relationship where it was like toxic?
Not like super obviously toxic, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Perfect example. Have you ever been in a fight with your partner, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what we're looking at is the different scales of masculine and feminine. So let's say you could have a man. I'll give you an example. You could have a man who desires like a single man, let's say, desires like a really beautiful woman, because guys are attracted to women's physical bodies, right? That's
Mhm.
how a lot of men see and experience the feminine, right? So you could have a guy that's single is like, oh, I want a really beautiful woman and I want her to be radiant and fun and whatever qualities, right? Like very specific. Well, if he desires a really radiant woman, then he will need to become more conscious himself and more present himself, because his consciousness and presence will attract that type of woman,
Mhm.
right? So vice versa, if a woman's like, oh god, I just can't find a guy who's like good, they're all assholes. So, you know
I've
what I
been
mean? Like,
there. Yeah.
yeah, so she may be like overly in her masculine
Mm.
and like really like, my way or the highway, and then she can't seem to attract a conscious present man because she is always in her masculine, so she's not going to attract she's going to attract a feminine man. So the energy will play, you know what I mean? Like, so there's
Yeah.
there's various scales based on our own personal growth.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I totally relatable. Totally been there, done that. So I would love to hear more about like when you say consciousness, right? I know you mentioned like
Yeah.
stillness and like that structure, that quietness, but how does a man, let's say, how does a man cultivate that? How does he empower like this side of him within himself?
Yeah. um Men are, we are interesting creatures. So, um there's kind of two sides to this. So the one side is, I think every guy on this planet desires to experience more peace, like less stress in their life, and more peace. But the paradox to that is we also every single man wants to live their purpose. Like we all want to experience success in whatever that purpose looks like. So the paradox to that is, in order to live your purpose, you're going to experience resistance and friction and tension, and there'll be this feeling like you want to break through to become a better person, a better man, right? So you're not really experiencing peace in those moments. It's growth. So to develop consciousness, it takes getting past your resistance and noticing where you set these limits on yourself so you can evolve and move higher in a level of consciousness. So it isn't just like sitting and meditating, say, for example, like you can do that. Like, I mean, Buddhist monks and Zen people do that, but there has to be some kind of practice in place to be able to strengthen the presence and consciousness of a man. You
Mhm.
probably experienced this. Have you ever been talking to a guy where they drift? Like you can tell they're not present.
Oh yeah. And even like not just in conversation, but I've had one of the biggest turn off, like for me as a very feminine woman, is a man that's almost like wishy-washy, right? He's
Oh yeah.
indecisive and he said, okay, we're gonna go on a date and then ends up flaking. Like those are huge
Oh my
turn
God.
offs.
Yeah. So right there, what happens, right? You probably instantly don't trust him.
Hmm.
Yeah. And because he doesn't trust himself. So I mean, that's a really good step, is that he needs to learn to trust his direction first. And
Mhm.
then you can kind of relax, because if you don't, and this goes for every woman, but if you don't trust the man in that moment, then you'll polarize back to your masculine, and you'll be like, well, screw this guy, I'm going to make the decisions. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big thing for women, is you women do not like weak, I call them weak men, like weak sauce
Mm.
men. You don't like wishy-washy men.
No, it's just unattractive. It feels like to us, it yeah, instantly feels like very feminine. It's something like a force that we don't feel like we can lean on or depend
Mhm.
on. So there's no trust and there's no respect and then there's no attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, a tip I'll give all the men who are listening, this is something that I learned and I still like practice to this day, is be clear on the why, like the purpose of each moment and why you're there. And then make a decision, like make a fucking decision, pardon my language, and just stick to it. Right. Because if you like waffle back and forth, you're going to come across weak. And then your woman or your potential woman is not going to trust you. Right. So you need to be rooted in your strength. And the thing is, I don't know if you do this, Miko, but most women will test their man to see how, like, do you do that?
Well, I don't have a partner right now, so
Okay, so we got open playing field. uh, but you know what I mean? You'll kind of do you test? Have you tested men to see where they break?
I feel like I've seen my mom does it. Like she, all her life, she operated a lot in her masculine. So I
Right.
definitely have seen that's how she tests my dad. And then, yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that play
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I mean, women, like, let's be honest, women do it in the bedroom to test to see how far they can take their man
Mhm.
until they go. And they do it in the emotional state, like the spiritual state, to see how far they can handle their emotional storms. So most most guys don't have any kind of like their spiritual, most guys spiritual practice, to be honestly, if you're dealing with like a first stage man from David Data's work, their spiritual practice is to sit behind a TV or a computer and just numb out and play video games or watch TV or go online. And that's like their spiritual practice. Um, so you need something, if it's like a thing that could help men develop their consciousness, is breathing techniques. Most men breathe very shallow. Um, Exercise, like any kind of movement, and then any form of structure that challenges them to step up. So you could use a business, you could use advancing your career, you could use finding your dream wife, like something that's challenging you to get better will help the man grow in consciousness.
Mhm. Yeah, so when you say like breathing and exercising, to me, like what I look at as a key foundation in the work that I do now, it's like getting back in touch with the body. Like a lot of guys and men live in the heads and they're totally disconnected from the body. So how would I mean, what happened for you, Ryan? Like when you started doing this work, what came up? Because oftentimes the reason why we don't get in touch with our bodies is because of any emotions like shame or guilt that we don't want to feel. So how was your journey like? Do you still remember?
Yeah, I mean, I had to go through like Dark Night of the Soul, where you're going through a lot of emotions, and most men do. But some men, I don't know if you're aware of this, but men need to rage their emotions out. You know, and a lot of, excuse me, a lot of men have a ton of suppressed anger that they haven't like worked through. There's a lot of apathetic men in the world, and you're right. We're just wired differently. Like, you know, we're not as in tune to our emotions as you women are. But we need to go through that stage to be able to evolve. So, you know, a part of my journey was I took, what year was that? 2010, 2011, in those years. And I did like a lot of emotional work, like a lot of issues from childhood and parent stuff, and like working through not feeling good enough and insecurities, and grieving, and like just a lot of trauma stored in the body. So when I
Mhm.
was able to flush that out, that's when my life started to change. So you're right. You need to go through that as a person, but also as a man, to be able to elevate to the next level. Makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not always fun and rainbows and sunshine.
No, no. But
So Ryan, yeah, go
the other
ahead.
thing I'll add to that is,
Mm.
men, it's really important that men, we have either groups of men to be around or colleagues. I look at the work you do, one of the mentors that changed my life, actually, I can think of my first mentor was a male, second mentor was a female, and then the third mentor was a female as well. My fourth mentor was a male. And the two female mentors that I've had that I worked with for many years, I needed a strong woman. And I mean, you're a great strong woman. I needed a strong woman that I could get support from to work through some of like the stuff I had, the blocks I had. And at that time, I didn't actually need a male mentor. So I think it's like the work you're doing is so important, because if I needed a woman that was strong, that could like understand what I'm going through, but also call me out of my shit, when I needed it.
Yeah, to me, I believe where like the feminine essence, or the power that comes in, is like that nurturing, like that almost like safe kind of feeling, this presence, like that a man can feel fully accepted, or like a sense of belonging, like there's that permission to be vulnerable and to open up his heart. I think that feminine energies can really draw that out from them.
Yeah, and that's like, so prior to me working, like my first mentor was John Assaraf, and he taught me a lot about like the brain and money and success, like a lot of masculine things. But my mentality was always just like, screw your emotions and just go create success. And when I started working with my second mentor, which is a woman, she did what you just said, is she brought and harmonized in the feminine side of me, which I was not tapped into at all. And what's interesting is you've got to remember the masculine gives, right? We've talked about this, and the feminine receives.
Yes.
So I was working hard, giving, but I didn't know how to receive, which is my feminine counterpart. So she helped me open up to receive. And literally that's when I started my coaching business. The coaching business went from like nothing to multiple six figures in like months, because I balanced the other half. And that's what I'm talking about. And if you look at, some of the things spiritually, you probably know this. There's a logo, it's called a caduceus. It's on the side of like ambulances and hospitals and stuff. It's the side of like, it's got a pole with two snakes wrapped around it, right? Going to the top. So that symbol, it has a representation that has many representations, but one is that you've harmonized your masculine and feminine, and you're spiritually ascending. And so the energy is ascending up your spine. So what's fascinating about that is that's exactly what I did when I first started my coaching business. Is I wasn't just all masculine. I learned to do the feminine side. And what I think for you is you're in your masculine and you brought back in your feminine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to talk more about this. This is so exciting, because we talk a lot in this conversation so far about a man stepping up in his masculine, the consciousness, but let's normalize men embracing his feminine energies and essence, right? You talked about learning how to receive, but what other aspects does it look like when a man is integrated and harmonized in his feminine?
Yeah. Strong spine, open heart. So open heart, but also not wishy-washy.
It sounds so complicated. So how does that look like?
Okay, so first of all, let's let go of the expectations that guys think they're going to reach a point where like, oh, okay, I've arrived. Like, we are all a constant state of work. We're all growing every day. We're changing every day. So all you can do is just grow into that. And I think I can speak for myself on the topic of integrating your emotions and the feminine side of things is give yourself the space to integrate your feelings and your emotions, but don't get stuck there. Because if you get stuck in the feminine, then you'll be wishy-washy as a man, right? Like, because here's the thing, whoever is the emotional mess is in their feminine.
I'm laughing because I've been there too. I've been stuck in my own emotions, and then I'm just spinning and I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. So integrate the emotions, but then, choose again and get going into, speaking to the men, of course, get going into some kind of practice that will help you strengthen your consciousness. But for men are very different. Like, there's times where I'm super conscious, I'm present, I feel great, I'm like really on the structural ball, I feel strong. And there's other times where I'm like, I just want to sit here and not think about anything and just like stare at the TV and do nothing. And that's okay. Like, because there's going to be times where you're really structured in a practice, and there's other times where you don't feel like putting effort in. And that's just a part of growth. So I'm saying, don't beat yourself up, it's just a part of it, but don't get stuck in the emotions.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we integrate emotions?
Well, I'm going to speak to the men on this one.
Yeah.
So one of the best ways that men can integrate emotions is repetitive exercise. So you could lift weights and do like CrossFit, and you have breathing techniques in there. But I do triathlons. If you have a repetitive motion like swimming or running or biking or even walking, it really helps the nervous system integrate any clogged up, stuck emotions, especially if you can get out in nature. It's even better. That would be my best tip for men to integrate the emotions. The problem is with men is most of them don't know what they're feeling. Like they have no clue. If you ask a guy, like, how are you feeling today? They're like, what are you talking about? Fine. Right. So you kind of got to allow yourself to go there and be honest and check in. Like, okay, what's, a good place to start would be what's stressing you out or what's on your mind. A tip I'll give for all your male listeners is, and this is never ask a woman what she's thinking, ask her what she's feeling. Right. And so the women, it's smart to ask your man what he's thinking, because guys think a lot, they overthink. So yeah, repetitive motion will help integrate the emotions.
And what was coming up for me when you say repetitive motion and exercise, would you say it's important like to bring that aspect of consciousness and like that intention and awareness, even in the moment of exercising? So as a way to integrate the emotions?
Yeah, totally. So you bring, like, you think about the emotion, you mean? Bring it.
Yeah. Like when you're integrating it through the repetitive motion exercising.
Yeah. So power of intention. Here's a great example, right? Anyone who's listening to this or watching this, whatever it's being played out, what's your purpose of listening to this? Right. So in each moment, what I was saying before is a man needs to know his purpose in each moment. So you need to understand why you're listening to this. What's the purpose of that? And even when you're around your woman, you never want to get, like, I never get around my wife, Chris, and walk into a room and go, hey, I'm here. Like, what do you want to do? I walk in structured of asking myself, what's the purpose of me being in this room right now? And so my energy is structured. So you don't end up like, well, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't know. What do you want for dinner tonight? I don't know. What do you want for dinner tonight? So you have like two feminines, right? So yeah, structure your energy and hold the power of intention. So even if you're doing those exercises, your intention, what's your intention here? What's the purpose of doing this exercise? So you're not just doing it, just do it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for like the real life examples and how practical everything that you talked about, because the debate between what to get for dinner is so relatable. I mean, I'm sure lots of our listeners tuning in.
Struggle is real.
Yeah. And I love this idea of like, what's your purpose every moment of whatever it is that you're doing, where you're going. And here's my challenge for everyone listening is to go back and re-listen to this entire conversation with that idea in mind. Like, what is your purpose tuning in? Like, why are you even listening to this conversation, and see what gets out of that? How is it different? So Ryan, time flew. It's already 30 minutes since we've been here. I would love to talk to you forever, but we're wrapping up today. However, I'm sure our listeners can absolutely stay connected with you, continue to learn from you. So where can they find you?
Best place would be Instagram. You can follow me there. And also our website, our official website is soulwealthcoaching.com. And we actually have a resource page because I have my Soul Wealth podcast. And on the top of the free resource page, you can find several episodes that our assistant has put up there that are specifically on masculine and feminine.
Awesome. And Ryan, I just want to say on behalf of everyone listening as well, from my heart, like thank you so much for being like so personable, so relatable. Like you are not someone that almost like position yourself as above people. Like I feel like ever since I've known you and learned from you and follow your path, you've just been so humbling and relatable. And I'm so grateful that you joined us today and share your wisdom and your insights with us. Thank you.
Miko, I'm very grateful for you and thank you for your kind words. I mean, anytime you do something, I'm game. Like, I just feel we have great flow, synergy, and I can't believe it was 30 minutes. That was fast.
I know, I know.
Crazy. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, and thank you so much as well to anyone that tuned in. And thanks for doing this work and saying yes to becoming a conscious lover. Please share with us inside our Facebook group anything that stood up to you and what you're bringing, taking away from this. And until next time, cannot wait to see you guys again. Take care.